Once we've created the rig, you can start to make your animations on it. You'll notice that because I made the rig initially at the origin, if I zero out the translation and rotation, it'll put it right in the middle, so we can always kind of know where our rig started. And to make the animations, we just use our animation hotkeys. So I can make him do a little, like a little loop-de-loop. So I can position and kind of rotate him down. And I can use my Shift W and Shift E to set a keyframe. Move forward in time, so maybe like 10 frames. We can move it forward, kind of rotate it down, Shift W, Shift E, move forward. So I'm moving forward in time. Kind of looking at my animation as I go. I think this is something I could fix in the graph editor to make it look a little bit nicer. So let's move it over here, rotate it, and 50, move it down, rotate it. So I'm moving forward in time, changing it, and then setting my keyframes. And then about 60 frames, we'll have it kind of fly away. Take this way. So if I check, he goes down, up. And you'll notice that I only set keyframes on the sort of major poses of the arc. So it's at the start, the bottom, the side, the top. So I don't need to keyframe like every single second of this arc. I can just keyframe the major poses and get the shape of it. If I want to start refining this, I can open up my animation graph editor, and I can take a closer look at what is going on here. So this is actually showing me the curves of my graph. So it's not moving in the X at all. The Y movement goes down and then up and then down and then up. And this is something where I might want to actually kind of come in here. I can drag a little box to highlight my keyframe and then drag the tangents to smooth out these lines so that the motion of it moving around in space is much smoother. We won't have any like weird hiccups. I can look at my Z translation, and so this is where I said I could like smooth out that little bump. So we can kind of come in here and smooth out. See how it kind of goes up and then down and then up. So I'm just altering the tangent lines a little bit to make the curves of the graph a little bit nicer. I think that looks good. And we have a little bit of the rotation. So I actually think that this might move, rotate smoothly in the X. And so I'm using my move tool and then holding shift to have it lock to the vertical axis. And I think that looks a little smoother. It's not rotating in the Y, and it's not rotating. So I've just gone through and kind of looked at the different animations that I had and then slightly tweaked the tangent lines to smooth out my curves. So I'm not having any like little weird lumps anymore. And if we go back, it should be, yeah, that little like weird lump that happened that was like right here. Look how much smoother that is. Makes like a perfect little circle now. And that was purely by me just smoothing out the animation lines, because the problem wasn't in the individual keyframes, it was in how you transition from one to the other. So by altering the tangent lines on the animation graphs, we can really smooth that out. Now I can come in here and start to make his little wings flap. So I'll set first set the pose. So I'll kind of come in here and notice how my rotation tool isn't facing the direction of the joint. I can actually change that so it's the orientation of my rotation tool is according to the object. Now see how they're lined up. So I can come in here, the channel box, and I can rotate it up so he'll be flapping. Little arms up in the air. I can set a rotation keyframe, setting Shift E, and then as he goes forward, maybe every 5 frames I want him to flap. So I can set my downward flap. Okay, select both, set my keyframe. If you think about what's going to happen with this animation, the wings basically just need to repeat these 2 keyframes over and over again. And so while we could like brute force kind of go forward to the 10th frame and, you know, move the wings up and then set our keyframe, you know, and then move forward and move them down, you know, that'd be fine, but there's faster ways to do it, and we can actually use our copy keyframe trick to make our workflow a little bit faster. So I know that at frame 15, I want them to flap back down to the same spot that they are in at frame 5. So if I go to frame 5, and then I click with my middle mouse button and drag to frame 15, notice how the animation is frozen right now? I can actually copy the keyframe by hitting Shift E. So it copies the current pose to wherever you have the middle mouse button dragged to. And then I hit my keyframe here, and it'll only keyframe the things you have selected. And as we look through, it goes up. Notice how the body keeps moving the way it was keyframe before, but the wings flap down to the same place that they are in frame 5. So I can come in here, go to frame 10, click my middle mouse, drag to frame 20, keyframe. Go to frame 15, copy to 25, keyframe. So I'm just clicking on frame 20, dragging with my middle mouse to 30, making a keyframe. Going to 25, dragging to 35, making a keyframe. And we could even go a little faster. I can go to 30, drag to 40, set a keyframe. And then the wings are going to stay there, so I could go 50 and 60, and then I could only... So we're just being like efficient with how we are copying our keyframes. And then what we have here is a very cute little loop-de-loop flapping animation that goes up to frame 60. Okay, so that's how to make a basic animation. And also use the graph editor to smooth out your curves. If you're working in Unity and want to learn how to make multiple animations on a rig and then import them all to Unity, we should watch the next video.